The German Blitzkrieg was built on a single, terrifying promise. We will move faster than you can react. In 1940, the world watched in horror as German Panzers outran enemy artillery, leaving their opponents defenseless. The Germans believed they had solved the problem of speed. But they were wrong. They hadn't seen the priest. Imagine being a German commander in 1944. You've been ordered to retreat and reorganize. You think you've outrun the enemy's guns. But then the horizon erupts. Steel starts raining from the sky before you've even turned off your engines. This wasn't supposed to happen. Artillery was supposed to be slow, horse-drawn, and static. But the Americans didn't just build a gun. They built a mobile sledgehammer that could chase a panzer division across a continent. Today, we are uncovering the story of the M7 Priest, the weapon that didn't just support the front line. It hunted the Wehrmacht into extinction.
To understand why the M7 Priest was a masterpiece, we first have to look at the German desperate gamble, the Wesp. On the Eastern Front, the German army was drowning in mud. Their brilliant 105mm guns were being pulled by horses that were dying in the Russian winter. The Germans were desperate. They took their obsolete Panzer II tanks, ripped off the turrets, and bolted a gun on top. It was clever, it was cost-effective, but it was a stopgap. It was cramped, it carried almost no ammo, and its armor was as thin as a tin can. The Wesp was a weapon of scarcity, a brilliant improvisation by an empire that was running out of time.
While Germany was recycling old tanks, America was dreaming big. They didn't want a recycled solution, they wanted a purpose-built war winner. Enter the T-32, later known as the M7 Priest. The Americans made a decision that changed the war. They put their heavy 105mm howitzer on the chassis of a medium battle tank. This meant the Priest had the heart of a beast. It had the same engine, the same rugged suspension, and the same speed as the Sherman tanks it was meant to follow. When British soldiers first saw the raised machine gun ring, they joked that it looked like a church pulpit. They called it the Priest. But for the Germans on the receiving end, there was nothing holy about the baptism of fire this machine delivered. Here is the math that doomed the Wehrmacht. The German Wespe could only carry 32 shells. In a high-intensity battle, the Wespe would fire for 10 minutes and then have to stop, wait for a supply truck, or retreat. The Priest? It was a mobile arsenal. It carried 69 rounds. This meant a battery of priests could sustain a barrage twice as long as their German counterparts. In a war of attrition, this wasn't just an advantage, it was a death sentence. While the Germans were waiting for ammo, the priests were already moving to their next position, ready to fire again. It was shoot and scoot on an industrial scale.
Most history books ignore human engineering, but it's why the Priest dominated. The Wesp was a nightmare of tangled limbs and hot brass. Its 5-man crew couldn't move. The Priest was massive. It had a 7-man crew with enough room to work with lightning speed. As the legendary war correspondent Ernie Pyle noted, the teamwork of a Priest crew was a sight to behold. Because they had the space to breathe, they could load, aim, and fire faster than any other mobile artillery on the planet. Space wasn't a luxury, it was a combat multiplier. Artillery is usually helpless against air attacks or infantry. A German Wesp crew was a sitting duck for a strafing Allied P-47. But the Priest came prepared. Mounted in that famous pulpit was the M2 Browning 50 caliber machine gun. It gave the crew a fearsome defense against anything that crawled or flew. It was the only artillery piece in the world that could hold its own in a close-quarters brawl.
America didn't just build the Priest for itself. Through Lend-Lease, they sent thousands to the British 8th Army in North Africa. At the Battle of El Alamein, the Priest became a legend, proving that mobile artillery could break the back of Rommel's Afrika Korps. With over 4,300 units produced, the Priest became the standard of excellence. It wasn't just a vehicle, it was the physical manifestation of the American doctrine: overwhelming, unstoppable, and mobile firepower. The Wesp was a clever improvisation born of desperation. The M7 Priest was a masterpiece born of foresight. It proved that in modern war, the side that can move the most steel the fastest wins. So we ask you, is the M7 Priest the most underrated vehicle of World War II? Or do you think the German quantity over quality improvisation was actually smarter? If you were a German soldier in 1944, what would you fear more? A Tiger tank you could see, or a battery of priests you couldn't, raining hell from 5 miles away while chasing you at 30 miles per hour? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. We want to hear your take. If you want to see the other industrial miracles that powered the Allied victory, check out our video on the 12 billion bullets right here. Don't forget to subscribe to Microdocs. We don't just tell history, we break down the machines that made it.